Hello, my little cheese miners. How are you? How are you all doing? Hello, welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. I got art I gotta send to Dapper later because we got a stream doing art and Blender stuff, so that'll be fun. That'll be over on Top Hats Off. You will notice our counter for our next costume. This is now the costume bar, is nearly at 50%. So we will either be doing the bunny again, or we will do the cow. I also have a sloth and an Eeyore as well. So, you know, we got options. And maybe something new. Maybe something you've never seen before. Actually, I don't know if you guys have seen... Oh, you guys seen the cow. Yeah, you've seen the cow. All right. Maybe something you've never seen before. We've also got the Spice Goal rolling, so that's great and good and fantastic. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. The New Year, same shit. You know, whatever. It's fine. The new schedule starts on Monday, so pray for me. I do have a Morticia. Oh, I do have a Morticia Adams. I do not have Maleficent. So we can work towards that. So our costume goal is going today. I did have a Cheshire Cat costume once upon a time, so maybe I can finagle a new one. That was a long time ago. All right, today we're talking about politics. And today, we are talking about Canadian politics in particular. We have, in the past, talked about Mark Carney and Perre Poilievre, and we are going to talk about them again today. The Global News did an interview with both of them to sort of wrap up the year about what they learned and what they're going into, and I think it'd be really fun to compare and contrast between the two. We're going to start with Mark Carney. Both of the videos are about 20 minutes long each, so we'll probably get through both of them today. That's the goal at the very least. And, yeah, alright, that's it. That's all I have. Any other updates? I don't know. I saw a really dumb tweet from Aaron that was really, really stupid, and maybe I'll talk about that on Dumbfuck Friday, with Manya, whenever the next one of that is. Alright, you guys ready? Is this gonna be less horrible than US politics? Yes, but also no. So, if you haven't followed on this channel while we've been covering, like, MAGA versus Canada politics, it's been a very good time. It's been a lot of fun. And I hope you have enjoyed it for those of you who have watched it. If you haven't watched it, too long didn't read. Diet Trump is our conservative party leader right now, Perre Poilievre. He's the one in the blue. And he was on track to a massive blowout victory to get the to become the Prime Minister of Canada. Then Justin Trudeau stepped down, and the Liberals, who are the guys on the left, or sorry, the guys in the red, had an election within their own party to elect a new party leader, because that's how it works. Whoever is the party leader is the person who ends up being the prime minister if their party wins the election, right? So Mark Carney won, like, hands down, like, not even close. Like, 80% of the Liberal caucus, or something like that, voted for Mark Carney to be the leader of the Liberal Party. So then everybody really liked him. So not only did the polls do this, like it went like the blue guys were up here, like the conservatives were up here looking like they were gonna win, the liberals were way down here in popularity, and they went like completely reversed in like a landslide. Like, this is not something that happens. This was unprecedented reversal. In an unprecedented turnaround, Mark Carney not only won, he ended up winning a minority government at the time, pulled out a minority government win for the Liberal Party. Perre Poilievre didn't even win his own seat in Ottawa, so he wasn't even in Parliament, but he was still the leader of the Conservative Party. So he had to go and sacrifice another well-liked, party member, seat holder in Alberta to run a special election so he could get a seat. So he's got a seat now. Very funny. In the meantime, while Perre Poilievre was doing that, Mark Carney has convinced a handful, I think 2 so far, conservatives to cross the line and be in the Liberal Party instead of the Conservative Party. So I believe Mark Carney is actually only, and the Liberal Party are only 1 seat away from having a majority government right now, which is very interesting. But that is the too long didn't read of where things are kind of at and what sort of happened. So let's listen to what they're asking Mark Carney. Let's see what Mark Carney has to say, and then we'll listen to Perre Poilievre. Because, I don't know, that's just the order that I had the videos pulled up in. I don't know. There's not really any reason for one or the other. So, yeah, here it is. The amount of thirst content that is made around Mark Carney is fucking cracked. Canadians are not a serious people. We do not take this shit that seriously. All right, let's go. I'm just gonna mute it for a second, just because I'm probably gonna get copyrighted for playing the global news stuff. Blah, 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 blah.
Of political upheaval for Canada. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau resigning triggered a snap election, and a leader brand new to the political game stepped in. Prime Minister Mark Carney was immediately thrust onto the front lines of an epic battle with Washington. He declared the U.S. is no longer a reliable partner, and right now there is no end in sight to that trade war. Across the river from our country's center of political...
Yeah, by the way, Mark Carney was not in politics as like a politician before he became the leader of the Liberal Party. So he was the governor of the Bank of Canada, then became the governor of the Bank of England. So while he was in Canada, he helped out with the 2005 financial crisis. He was helping the Conservative government that was Harper at the time. He left his position as the governor of the Bank of England, I believe, right before Brexit. And he spent a lot of time being like, hey, don't do Brexit. Hey, don't do that. And then they did it anyway, because of course they did. Bad decisions, but, you know, whatever. So yeah. That's about that. Anyway, he's well liked in politics. He's also got his wife is also like very much a part of climate change issues. And he's also been a part of a lot of climate change initiatives about money and investment and insurance. But anyway, that's kind of... Insurance is boring, even though it's got a whole ton of information and could be very, very interesting. Nobody wants to talk about it. So let's keep going.
Political power sits the Canadian Museum of History, temporarily housing Inuit cultural items reclaimed from the Vatican, and a grand hall devoted to Indigenous cultures of the Pacific Northwest, including BC artist Bill Reed's sculpture, The Spirit of Haida Gwaii. Of it, he said, "The boat goes on forever, anchored in the same place." The sculptor was well known as an advocate for Indigenous sovereignty and land rights. A fitting location for our year-end interview with the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, thank you so much for taking time with us.
Thanks for having me, Donna.
This time last year, you weren't in politics. Fast forward to today, and you're at the very heart of it. What have you learned in the last 8 months, and what has surprised you the most about being Prime Minister?
That's a really interesting point. Could you imagine being like, hey, yeah, I'm not in politics to now I'm running a country? That's kind of fucking cracked. And yeah, that is something that I think he's spoken on, where he's like, listen, I'm not a politician. I'm going to make mistakes about this. So if you can help direct me in where I want to go. There was something that I can't remember which one of the bills that he put forward that people weren't happy about. And so he was like, okay, I see that people aren't happy about this. Let's make some changes. And they did. So that's nice. It's nice to have a politician that's, you know, seems at least to be listening. But let's see what he has to say.
What have I learned? Well, I'll tell you what has surprised me the most, even though having been around politics for a number of decades, in other words, you know, when I was a civil servant, when I worked at the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, etc., I dealt with prime ministers in various ways. So I had a sense that the job is 24/7, 365 days a year. It's one thing to have that sense, it's another thing to live it. So in that respect, it is a surprise. There's just a host of issues that I'm sure we'll talk about, a subset of them today, that are on my mind that I need to make sure that the government is dealing with, anticipating moving forward. So that's probably the biggest surprise. And then of course the other aspect of being a politician is how you express those issues, how you speak with people and engage. And look, I'm not perfect at it. I think you figured that out, and I'm sure I'll demonstrate that in the coming minutes.
Well, you called yourself a politician, though.
He's a little bit humble, which I think is one of the things people like, which is a little bit of a PR move. Not a bad one. That's not a criticism. That's just a matter of fact. It's useful to be a little bit humble and acknowledge you're going to make some mistakes, because it gives you a door. It leaves a door open for you to leave yourself an out if something goes wrong. But there's my 2 cents in the chat is apparently providing a citation for how corrupt Mark Carney is, called "Moose on the Loose Moose Chart." That's That's a fantastic name. Is the moose that's on the loose named Elliot Moose also? That's wonderful. So I'll pull that up. I'm more than happy to go through it on another time. I want to watch the interviews today, but I'm more than happy to take a look at it and see if any of that stuff is true. Is Moose on the Loose Moose Chart like the URL? Like if I type that in .com, is that what's gonna come up? Because I hope so. But yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
You didn't used
well,
to do that.
I am now a politician. I have to admit, I am prime minister, so
Yeah.
I am a politician, but I'm still a pragmatist.
It would be easier for you, though, if you had a majority. And you're inching towards that.
Well, yeah.
You are. You're one away now, because you have managed to lure a couple of Conservative MPs to the Liberal caucus.
I don't like the word lure. That seems to imply that he's like baiting people. That's a word's a little off to me. Could you imagine Donald Trump using the word subset of subjects? I can't. I think that's too much of a word for Donald.
Caucus. Are you courting other Conservative MPs to push you over the edge?
Well, it's interesting. I wouldn't have chosen that verb, lure.
Courting? Luring?
Lure or courting.
Okay.
What I would choose is they are attracted by what we are doing. And that's a key element. You're looking in Parliament to have the confidence of the House in the vernacular, in the term. So you need support of obviously your own caucus, but others to either support or not stand against what you're doing if you're in a minority.
So
Sometimes
did they
people
come
say,
to you and
yes.
say...
I think that's interesting. That's a good point. Remember, the way politics are supposed to work is you're supposed to work together, not just be diametrically opposed about everything. It is not the Conservatives' job to just oppose everything all the time and slow down any kind of movement or stop any kind of movement. The job is to work together and coming at problems from different angles and looking for solutions. That's what politicians are supposed to do. They're supposed to interact with each other and find ways and common ground to get along. And I think that's something that people are critical about Mark Carney on, specifically because Mark Carney, I think, has done a very good job of speaking in a way that that explains and makes conservatives, not extreme conservatives, like like normal conservatives, be like, wait, yeah, no, that's a good idea. So like people who are actually thinking about what's going on as opposed to radicals, right? He's not catering to radicals. I don't even think he's catering to conservatives. I think what he's doing is he's just communicating left-wing ideas in a language and in a way that conservatives understand it. And I think that there are the more hard-lined liberals, or the more left liberals, are critical of that. They don't like that. That's politics. I understand the criticism. I don't entirely agree with it, especially if Mark Carney is, in fact, a pragmatist, like he said. You need to be able to communicate with the other side. If you can't communicate with the other side, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting everyone's time. You're never gonna get anywhere. As for, like, the fact that there are conservatives who have voted for Carney and who, like, but like within the populace, as well as conservatives who are willing and wanting to actually work with him to get things done that are beneficial for their like the people that they represent, I think that's great. That's what you want. Why would you not want the government to work for you, even if the government isn't represented by your party? Right? Like, you still want the government to work in your favor. That's the point. It's a very like odd us versus them that sort of populism has tried to ingrain into people. And it's telling. It's telling in a lot of language, and the words people use when they're trying to discuss these things is very funny to me.
Absolutely.
And did you meet with them, with Chris
I met with them just at the end of what was a process, but in those cases, they came to us. They were interested in, they were attracted by what the government is doing. This is a positive vote for the government, supporting the government at a crucial time for our country. And I'd underscore that there's a sense of responsibility that comes obviously with these roles. And we are in a better position as a country, my judgment, 9 months in to this government. Economy's better, we've got a plan, we're implementing that plan, we're making progress internationally, we're becoming more independent as a country. But we are still in a crisis because our neighbor, our biggest trading partner, has fundamentally changed his policies. So there is a...
The United States is being a problem and making itself everyone's problem. Hooray! I mean, at least if there's anything Canadians can agree on, it's basically fuck Donald Trump and fuck the United States right now. And it's not about like the people, it's about some of the people, but it's not about like the people who live in the United States. It's just about, guys, stop hitting us. We don't want to do this. Cease and desist. Back when Carney was voted into power a couple of months ago, and this is like a handful of months ago, there was a poll about like how Canadians felt about becoming a 51st state, and it was like over 80% of Canadians were like, fuck the United States. I mean, we shut down a whole ass bourbon company. Oh, we're so fucking petty.
Sense of responsibility. The government's moving. It's attractive to members of the House, and they're coming to us.
President Trump faces midterm elections next fall. Is one strategy simply to wait him out?
Why are they playing all this? Jason said Donald Trump will never get the it no means no. Yeah, no, he's a rapist. Rapists don't grasp the consent or the word no, especially when you're suffering from like severe like other mental issues.
President Trump faces midterm elections next fall. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to rule on whether his tariff scheme is legal or not.
Tariff scheme is a really good word for it. I will remind you, Global News is a Canadian news outlet, so like I don't know how many Americans are used to their host being like generally pleasant, but also under like I saw when we reviewed Mark Carney and Donald Trump being in a room together and they were talking, and the fact that the Americans just did not grasp that Mark Carney was insulting Trump to his face in like this really underhanded way, but all the Canadians understood. Fucking hilarious. Absolutely wonderful. Yes, my 2 cents. He was. Correct.
Is one strategy simply to wait him out, to let events potentially take over?
Well, certainly a strategy is not to rush into a bad deal, and that's what we've been very disciplined about. And every week that goes by, the more that we're developing our economic strategy at home, the more we're developing those relationships abroad, the stronger we get. So you gave the example, you prompted me on the defense spending, that $80 billion. That's an enormous amount of money. That's necessary to protect our Arctic. It's necessary to make sure the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have the right equipment. But a lot of that, instead of 70 cents on every dollar going south of the border to the United States defense contractors, a lot of that is now going to be spent here, and it's going to help develop other industries. So all of that puts us in a better position. So yes, is it a better position to be disciplined, have the tough negotiations, which we're having, have those discussions, and then if a good deal is there, yes, we will sign it. But if it's not there, we're not going to sign a bad deal.
Just to be clear, there are...
Yeah, I think that's a good way to, a good approach. Rushing in any kind of like economic turbulence is generally not a good idea. Like generally not, it doesn't, no matter how much money you're dealing with, generally rushing into an agreement is putting yourself on the back, especially in negotiation, you're putting yourself on the back foot because now you're under pressure and your opponent in the negotiation can take advantage of that, right? And so you don't want that. On the plus side, the way Canadians have responded to this economic terrorism that Donald Trump is doing, right? Because that's what it is. It's economic terrorism. He was trying to destabilize Canada so he could take advantage, right? The way Canadians have responded to it has been almost perfect. First off, by getting angry, and second off, by getting busy, and third off, by shutting the fuck up. There aren't massive protests going on right now. There's been a couple, but nothing huge. Why? Because why are we gonna protest Donald Trump in our country? That doesn't make any fucking sense. It would be a waste of money. It would be a waste of time. What have we done? Boycotted. Canadians stopped buying American products. Canadians, while they were shopping, started turning American products upside down on the shelves. So much, and they were so effective at it that now stores, specifically grocery stores, have stopped buying Canadian or American products to even put on the shelves because the demand for the supply isn't there, which completely cripples companies that are United States based that have a base in Canada. For example, like we just mentioned, bourbon. Bourbon might just go away because of how much bourbon companies, Kentucky, relies on Canadian economics and relies on Canadians buying it, right? And so, same with travel. There's going to be a lot of large and small businesses, including airports, that are going to suffer and are already suffering from Canadians not traveling to the United States. Particularly Canadians who are generally considered snowbirds. The ones, the Canadians that fly down for 3 months of the year to go and own property in Florida, right? Those people are selling their property. Those people are not going even though they own property there anyway, and they're refusing to do that. So it's like the massive effect is clear to see that this is what Canadians are doing, this is what's going on. And so it's fascinating to watch. If you go into a Canadian grocery store now and you look at the produce, almost none of it is American. Almost none of it. You have to go looking to find the American products now. There are a couple of exceptions. Kraft Dinner is one of them. Kraft Dinner is one of them. What's one of the other ones? Kellogg's is another one, and there's a few Pepsi products that are still like kicking around because let's be real, PepsiCo is fucking huge. So just seeing like this massive amount of strain on these American companies is how long is that going to, and that's just from the sales point. Right? That doesn't even include the supply chain along the way, which is including steel, which is including lumber, which is including potash. So farmers, the soybean farmers in America are fucked. Like, totally fucked. Farmers who need equipment are fucked. So there's gonna, like, 2026 is gonna get scary, I think, for a lot of Americans, unfortunately.
There aren't negotiations underway now formally.
There
right?
are not formal ones yet.
Okay.
But there's negotiations about negotiations. How's that? That's the way it works.
Oh, you're a politician.
No, but that's the way it works. That's the way it works in trade.
And see, this is what I mean, where you're going to see that there's going to be dishonest actors that always come to this kind of a discussion because they can't handle the discussion, right? They're too emotionally unstable or emotionally immature, right? So, Not Sunny Days Ahead, accurate name, said, she is full of lies, referring to me. There are American products in grocery stores. Did I say there were no American products in grocery stores? No, that's not what I said. So, try again. And this is what I mean. They'll take something and then push and then extrapolate to push it to an extreme, to turn it into something it's not, remove themselves from reality and pretend that they're still actually having a conversation, right? Which they're not. They're here to preach. We see this every time. I'm back to the conservatives in Canada don't know how to do math, right? We're back to that discussion. Remember? We're back to that discussion where they don't know how to do math. 20% off of 15% taxes equals how much money on $1,000, right? So prove to me you can do the math.
Trade, so where the scoping, the scope.
Apparently Not Sunny Day is definitely a Canadian, definitely has proven that they're a Canadian, and definitely speaks for all Canadians, as opposed to the actual numbers that we have of a 70% drop in travel, as opposed to the actual bourbon stores, companies closing down. It's definitely because Canadians are still buying. There's definitely not data on this that we've already looked at on this channel.
Scoping of what's going to be in CUSMA, how it's going to be arranged, and that's going to come.
It feels like the ground is shifting globally. I mean, you have described it as a hinge moment, a rupture of multilateral rules-based order. Where does Canada fit into that as a middle power? What kind of influence can we really wield?
Yeah, it's very, first, I think it's very important that we recognize exactly what you just said, how much things have changed, and it's a very fluid situation internationally. That's one of the reasons why we're being so aggressive in talking to different partners, developing different defense, security, and economic partnerships. What I would say to Canadians, the good news is virtually everybody wants to do more with Canada. So that's...
That doesn't surprise me at all. Canada has such a good reputation globally, both historically and from like a modern standpoint, and we're such a good group of people to work with and are so successful at pretty much anything we've really worked on, and we're surprisingly fast. One of the things that I saw people were really worried about in 2025 was that what Mark Carney was pushing for was too much too fast and we wouldn't be able to keep up. I like to remind people what happened in World War II and how fast Canadians are at responding and moving. And even if you don't want to go back that far, you go to fucking even recently at how quickly Canadians responded to Donald Trump's 51st state thing. Not only did the polls fucking flip, just flipped, partly in response to that, but also, again, the boycotts and how successful those boycotts have been in putting pressure onto politicians in the United States. And it's not even just like people who have Senate seats. Kentucky has been begging. California, Minnesota, there's so many states that are like, hey, can we just make deals with you on our own? Please? I like Kevin's comment. Carney is a pathological liar and a communist. Kevin, can you do me a favor and define communism for me? And also, even if Mark Carney is a pathological liar, can you point out what he's lied about so far in this interview and explain? Because so far he's like, virtually everybody wants to work with Canada. Yeah, this is true. We have deals with Australia, we have deals with France, we have advancements going on in deals with the EU overall, which is a lot of countries. But we have new deals, and we've been shaking hands with Mexico, etc. Even China, we're talking to a little bit more. So, let alone how successful the G7 meeting was recently in Alberta this last year. Alberta wants independence, not 51st. Fun fact, if you actually look at the poll numbers, Alberta definitively does not want that. There's just a handful of people, one of which or two of which are in parliament, that claim to want that, but actually don't seem that they actually want that. So, but if you actually look at the numbers, that doesn't pan out. Turns out, it's actually a pretty close to a 50-50 split between left and right. Now, the parties are split differently because... For anybody who doesn't know, I should explain this. For anybody who doesn't know, the Conservatives in Canada have a coalition that was two parties in Canada on the right that had coalesced into one group. This is one of the reasons why Harper was so successful for as long as he was, is because he had that coalition that took two or three conservative parties and conglomerated them into one, which gave them a lot more seats and a lot more power because they were now all one party. The Liberal Party doesn't have that. The left doesn't have that. We have the NDP, we have the Green Party, we have the Liberal Party. So the Liberal vote is actually split between at least three parties, as opposed to the two for the Conservatives, right? So it makes the balance of those numbers a little bit skewed. So if you look at the right versus left, as opposed to party versus party, the number of people in the Western provinces that are left or right ends up being far closer to like a 49-51. It's actually a lot closer than you might think. However, once you split it up into three parties and two parties, you end up with a conservative majority in those areas. And then you have like the NDP and the Liberals and the Green Party intersectingly at lower levels, but in total a higher number. Fun, right? Numbers, polls, woo! It's like it's magic. But as we know, conservative extremists like we have in the chat right now don't know how to do math. So it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. The facts don't matter. The points don't matter. They just feel bad, all right? They feel bad that their blue guy didn't win. And so because they feel bad, they have to point fingers at everybody else without actually demonstrating anything because numbers are hard. My favorite thing that I saw Poilievre say this year was, number go up, therefore number go up. It's like, yeah. Go figure, right? Who'd have thought? I'm sorry, Mr. Carney. Please continue.
True in Asia, whether it's the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, the ASEAN countries, which are almost a quarter of the world's GDP. It's Indonesia, it's the European Union, it's the UK, it's the countries of the Gulf. United Arab Emirates is going to invest $70 billion, $70 billion in Canada. They've made a commitment to that. They made the commitment. We didn't even ask, that
Oh, damn, guys. Mark Carney sure is screwing us over by a $70 billion injection into our economic system. What a shame. What an asshole, am I right?
That comes. So people want to do more with Canada because we have what the world wants.
What Poilievre actually said is he was like, this guy is doing crime in this city, and when this one guy does crime, the statistics of crime goes up. I was like, yes! When number go up, number go up. It was one of the funniest things I have ever seen. We talked about it on the channel. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll link it. It's so fucking funny. Fucking wonderful. Yeah, what a communist doing capitalism on a global stage. You notice Kevin immediately ran away and didn't provide the definition of communism? It's because these people don't fucking know what communism is. It's like the actually brain dead. Actually brain dead. Where is he getting 70 billion from? What, you didn't hear what he said? You need me to put it back? He said exactly where he was getting the 70 billion from. Did you miss it? You didn't. It was when Mark Carney talks. Do all you hear is because you're too mad, like you're too angry?
We have the values to which most of the world aspires. We're a reliable partner, and we're an increasingly confident nation that has ambition. So people want to deal with us. Now, that
is kind of cool, actually. It's been a while. Like when I was growing up, I didn't feel very Canada didn't feel like a very ambitious place. It seemed pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Complacent. Canadians felt complacent to me, and that felt like the identity. We were just kind of vibing, you know what I mean? And it doesn't feel like that now. That's not the vibe check I get. When I get the vibe check now for Canada, it's like, no, we have direction, we have goals, we have ambition. And so that's actually been a very, very nice change in my opinion. Taxpayers for generation to come will be footing the bill for that $70 billion. Tell me you don't understand anything about economic. How are the taxpayers going to be footing the bill for a $70 billion deal coming from another country? What are you talking about? Why? Why is it every time a fucking conservative comes in here, they're dumb as shit? Like, they do not send their A-stringers. I talk to people who are more conservative leaning in my real life, and they're not this bad. But why are the ones on the internet so goddamn stupid? Rubik says, I was called a communist and told to go back to Russia by being a part of a counter-protest of a Tea Party rally, pre-MAGA Republican, yeah. Where we had an actual tea party with teapots and cups. You were called a communist for that? Oh, is it because all the tea was in one cup and then you poured it into everyone's cup? Is that why you were called a communist? My 2 cents says you think it's free money? No, nobody said that. Who said the money was free? It's an investment. Oh my god. Sir, and or madam, or neither. What do you think an investment is? Here, define what an investment is for me, please, because it seems like you don't know what you're fucking talking about. No, if I was attacking you as a person, I would have to know something about you. And I don't know anything about you. No. You are dumb, though. To be fair, the smart conservatives crossed the floor. Okay, Red CRD makes a really good point. The conservatives that have 2 brain cells have... I guess I am attacking you personally. Yeah, to tell you what, my 2 cents. Yeah, I'm attacking you personally. You don't have any brain cells. Until you can demonstrate otherwise. You've already had an opportunity. Now I've come to the conclusion that you don't have 2 brain cells to rub together. So... What argument? I know, they're not making an argument, Zell. Thank you for pointing that out. My 2 cents is not yet to make an argument, right? They're just fucking... And here we go. Oh no, the hair! At least I own shampoo. It's always the hair! They're always mad at my hair every single time. Man, I haven't even fucking shaved recently, and I need to. I'm like, man, I need a haircut. They're so mad all the time. At least I own shampoo. Oh my god, soap, guys, soap. Have you considered soap? Oh my god. So they can't define investment, they don't know math, they completely missed what Mark Carney said about where the money was coming from and how and why, which was an entire thing that he said, because these people are literally they're so obsessed with their feelings and how they feel about it that they literally can't hear what anybody else is saying. Do the math. Do the math. Explain how taxpayers are paying for a $70 billion investment coming from Indonesia. There's a reason conservatives like the uneducated. Yeah, it's almost like there's a reason that people who have an education list to the left more often. That's an actual statistic. I'm not sure what shampoo has to do with understanding economics. Prixie! 70 billion over a total population of Canada is about 2K. Yeah. Well, the 70 billion isn't going into like the taxpayer pocket. It's an economic investment between two countries. And these people actually think. These people actually think, what do you think, that Indonesia is just gonna throw 70 billion at and that's gonna go directly to the individuals who live in Canada? Like, that's insane. Like, what? Money loaned from other countries. That's not their. My 2 cents. What is the difference between a loan and an investment? What makes you think it's a loan? Where are you getting that? You're just making shit up. What is the loan part that you're talking about? Where are you getting this from? I'm telling you, delusional. Live in an actual alternate reality. They take something somebody that they don't like said, or somebody who said something they don't like, then they just invent shit so that way they can feel better about themselves. It's just a circle jerk. It's just a mental masturbation. That's all it is. And they have nothing to offer, right? You don't see an argument as to why I should like Pierre Poilievre. There's no reason as to why I should like conservatives presented. There's no argument presented. It's just, Mark Carney bad. Okay. So you don't like Mark Carney. So what? Talk about the policy. Talk about the politics. Talk about the actual, like, investment strategies. It's not my problem if you like his face or not. I don't care.
Is good for our economy, it's good for jobs, it's good for the future, it's good for our independence from the United States, but it also brings an opportunity to help shape a world that is more dangerous, more divided. And we see an example. I'll give you one example of that. We are a member of something called the Coalition of the Willing to support Ukraine. So the United States is not a member of the Coalition of the Willing supporting Ukraine. We are major European countries.
Which is actually correct. The fact that the United States, the people who made the deal with Russia and Ukraine in defense of Ukraine, on paper made a deal, are not in the Coalition of the Willing and are not actively fucking being not a problem in the defense of Ukraine is insane. It's crazy. Like, in no world, like, we've all gotten used to 2025, I'm telling you, because, like, in any other scenario, if this had happened, everybody would be gobsmacked at what is happening. And people were gobsmacked when it first happened. But now we've all just kind of gotten used to it. But the fact that, like, a bunch of fucking everybody, Pierre Poilievre won Extreme Makeover, Mike Johnson edition. Okay, listen, just because it's right doesn't mean you can savage the man like that, just because you're correct.
Countries, Australia's in, United Kingdom as well. So we're helping to create the possibility of a lasting peace there through security guarantees and other support. And that type of coalitions, different countries coming together on different issues, I think we're going to see more of that. Canada with the right values and with influence, because
now my 2 cents is mad that Carney is good at what he does. Carney is invested in the Ukraine war as well as rebuilding of Ukraine. It's a win-win for Carney. Good? Like, that's what you want? Why is that bad? I don't. What's the problem? What's the issue? Do you want Ukraine to suffer? It's a win for Canada. It works for us. It works great for us. Russia hates us. That's, like, well known. Russia hates Canada. So, like, fuck Russia is kind of in line.
We have what the world wants. I think we can play an important role there.
I do want to get to the question of the memorandum of understanding with Alberta
Right.
for the pipeline. Do you look like a hypocrite for backing an expansion of the oil sands after spending so much of your career warning about the dangers of climate change?
Well, not at all, because what I
What a loaded question. Do you look like a hypocrite if this? I don't think so. I'll answer the question first. I don't think so. I think that there is a misunderstanding from a lot of people at any point of the political spectrum that do not understand that you do not chop down your lemon tree before you've planted a new lemon tree. You can't stop using oil and then develop green energy options. You need to still use oil in an effective and efficient way as you gradually shift over. The goal of climate change, fighting climate change, isn't about removing oil. That's propaganda. The goal of climate change is to use oil in a sustainable way, not eliminate it entirely. Right? It's never been about elimination, it's about sustainability. Anything that's been talking about elimination is ostensibly propaganda. And that doesn't mean that the propaganda is coming from big oil. The propaganda could be coming from a handful of places. It's just not an accurate representation of what the actual goal of equilibrium would be. Right? Now, we're going to have to do some extra and then bring it back down to reach that equilibrium, right? Because we're too high in one area. So to compensate for being too high in one area while we bring it down, but that doesn't mean that you can't do a pipeline while you're bringing it down. Right? It's a transition. And having a pipeline does not mean, and doing a pipeline doesn't mean you're not in a downturn. It's not a one-to-one, right? But of course, the right extremists are all going to freak out because we use the word transition, and that's a trigger word for them. They can handle that. But yeah, you do not chop down the tree that is providing you food until your new tree that provides food has grown into a tree that provides food.
said consistently is that the world is going to use hydrocarbons for coming decades under any scenario, net zero, 1.5 degree scenario, IEA's scenario. It's in the variance of 25, 30 million barrels per day of oil, down from 100, but still being used, first point. Second point is what kind of oil or hydrocarbons are going to be used? Low cost, low risk, low carbon. Third point, low carbon, crucial. If we are going to continue to supply hydrocarbons, it needs to be low carbon. That is why at the center of the Memorandum of Understanding is Pathways, which takes 16 megatons of carbon out, the equivalent of 90% of the cars and trucks in Alberta off the road, and that these are low carbon barrels. In other words, the production and the transportation of that oil.
It's clean oil, I think, is the term that Alberta uses.
Yeah, decarbonized oil.
Yeah.
Now, so that's, and then what else we've done, because the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, it is the pipeline. It's a potential pipeline, it's Pathways. It is a 6.5 times increase in the effective carbon price. It is 75% reduction in methane. It is interties with the clean grid of British Columbia. It's nuclear investment in nuclear power as well. So it's a comprehensive approach to the medium term.
Wow, it's almost like building the pipeline can bring carbon emission down, and so as part of the transition from one to the other. Oh, wow. I'm shocked. Truly shocked, appalled, surprised, bamboozled, hoodwinked. Hi, my unfinished journey. Good to see you.
Energy, which is a lower carbon energy.
But climate change is not the urgent political issue that it once was. It's not on the top.
I'm sorry. My two cents just said probably one of the funniest things I've seen in chat in a while. You are on a device right now that was brought to you by capitalism. Oh, that's such a weird implication. Oh, that's wonderful. Guys, you exist in the system and are criticizing the system. How dare you? And yeah, Prixie brings up the other thing I was laughing at. Why do you think people wouldn't make things without capitalism? guys, nothing was ever invented before capitalism existed, all right? Nothing, not one single thing. Communism is when no iPhone. I mean, to be fair, without capitalism operating in the way that it is, the iPhone itself probably wouldn't be doing as well, because Apple gets a lot of fucking subsidiary benefits for, you know, being a fucking big-ass, pain-in-the-ass fucking yada yada yada. No, cave art didn't, it was, no. Language was not invented until capitalism. Nothing was ever invented until capitalism. Shut up. Listen, my 2 cents knows what they're talking about, alright? Nothing. No things. There's never been anything before capitalism. Fuck you. Oh, God, sorry. That was really funny.
Of everyone's agenda now. In this moment that we are in, countries are pulling back from their net zero commitments. Many countries haven't made their emissions targets, including Canada. So where are we at on that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, globally, we're off track. Exactly what you said. The ability to keep...
I like that Carney doesn't dodge this. He's not like, oh, well, actually, and then making a bunch of excuses or trying to brush away the fact that we didn't make our emissions numbers. He's just like, yeah, no, we're off track. We didn't get there. Here's what we need to do.
Temperatures below 1.5 degrees is slipped away. The ability to keep them below 2 degrees, which was the Paris objective, is what the focus is. That's the first point. The second, in terms of Canada, we are also, what the policies that I inherited are not sufficient to meet our targets, okay? Not sufficient to meet our targets, 2035 targets. And in part because regulation in and of itself isn't sufficient. You need the investment alongside it. And so part of the shift of the government is to really focus on those investments at scale. So that is clean grid, and you'll see early in the new year our electricity strategy for the country, our clean electricity strategy for the country.
When Mark Carney became prime minister and changed the carbon tax, the price of gas plummeted for a few months. It was actually very interesting.
Associated nuclear strategy for the country, carbon capture being part of this solution, and beyond. So it's about investment action in order to reduce those emissions, because what will happen, first off, there's the moral imperative of the moral obligation, responsibility for future generations of addressing the issue, but is also the commercial reality. Climate has become less of an issue politically if you look at polling, but it is continuing, the climate change is continuing remorselessly, and what is happening is that the importance of being lower carbon, whether it's in energy, automobiles, aerospace, services, whatever industry, will only become more important. You just have to look at where China and others are going. We have an opportunity, we have an enormous opportunity in this country to leapfrog the United States. The United States has taken its eye off the ball on this. I mean, they've really downgraded it. We have an opportunity to leapfrog the United States on top of that overall responsibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What's happening in the United States right now is devastating to the American people. Obviously so. It shows in the statistics. It shows in the approval rating for Donald Trump. It shows in things like the Epstein files. What is happening to the people of the United States because of the direction of the current administration is devastating to them. However, in Canada, it's an opportunity, twofold. One, it's an opportunity to take advantage of the United States tripping over itself, and two, the majority of Canadians are united on this concept. So not only does Mark Carney have the opportunity that's been presented to take advantage of this situation, but also he has the backing of the Canadian people. The people in Canada want to take advantage of this situation because they're pissed at Donald Trump. And they're like, yeah, fuck that guy. If Mark Carney had tried to do this at any other point in history without Donald Trump shooting himself in the foot with his 51st state rhetoric, he would not be nearly as successful, because we'd be like, well, yeah, but we're friendly with the United States. Why would we do this? They're like, no, we're friends. We don't need to worry about that. It's fine. But because America decided they wanted to punch us in the head repeatedly, we're like, yeah, fuck you. Elbows up. Let's fucking go, right?
We can create jobs, we can make life more affordable, we can build our economy, and we are going to take those opportunities as they come.
Millions of Canadians who are struggling to pay the rent, who have difficulty buying groceries because the cost of everything has risen so much. What is your message to them? We are here in this gorgeous hall, the Museum of History, with the history of the Pacific Northwest people here. It's their history, but the people who live there now are looking to their future, and they, some of them, are opposed to another pipeline, do not want that happening to their coast, believe that the rewards go to Alberta and they take all the risk. What's your message to them?
Well, the first thing, we were talking beforehand, you know, my family, my parents from BC and extended.
Feline said, where do you want to plant $2 billion worth of trees? Not to mention, they take decades to grow. Talking about my two, and that was Feline in response to my 2 cents, saying, you realize Carney is invested in carbon capture and canceled the $2 billion tree planting project. He cares about his pockets, not the climate. Yeah, no, you're right. That's trees hold carbon. They don't. So when a tree dies, its carbon is then slowly released into the atmosphere. So tree planting is not on its own a very good solution. It's more of a stopgap measure. And there are better ways to invest money and other things we can do. So we already have a lot of tree planting projects in Canada. One of the biggest examples of tree farming and the way we do logging is, and the way we handle our lumber in a renewable way is Algonquin Park. If you look at the way Algonquin Park functions, it is ostensibly farming. I would recommend go check that out. Go look up Algonquin Park and learn a little bit about it if you're interested. But there are $2 billion of trees is not necessarily going to be terribly helpful. Investing in projects that rebuild coral reefs, investing in projects that assist in not clogging up ports with, you know, I recommend you go, there's a website where you can go and see all of the active boats in the ocean, and I would definitely recommend going and checking that out because it's very, very interesting and is very, very eye-opening about why a lot of ocean traffic is incredibly problematic from an environmental standpoint. So finding adjustments and making changes for something like that would be worthwhile. Algae, investing in that, helping create lowering hotspots in cities. Hotspots are cities are hotspots generally. There's like a lot of heat that comes from a city, so finding ways to cool the city down is generally a good idea and is also generally carbon reducing as well. Part of that is like you can do with just having, instead of trees, having more, what's the word I'm looking for? Definitely more greenery, but there's lots of different things you can do. So are we really that concerned about not having one $2 billion tree project? Like, I feel like that sounds petty to me. It sounds petty, and it sounds like you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to the environment. My 2 cents. The only reason you know what Carney is and or was invested in is because he disclosed all of his investments before he even had to, by law, and has followed the law. Now, I have offered that I am more than happy to look through the list that you provided, but not today, because we're looking at this. And the fact that you are so impatient and you are trying to force it down everybody's throat, we know what you're trying to say. We get it. We know that you believe Mark Carney is corrupt. We get that. And we're fine to look at your citations, but you provided me a YouTube channel, which isn't exactly a citation. And again, I've already said I'm more than happy to look at it. But the fact that you are so incompetent at making your point, you are so ignorant to general and actual facts of the matter, so impertinent and impatient that you are incapable of listening to the other side or what anybody has to say, and too busy pissing yourself and throwing a tantrum in the side comments, that you can't even wait for us to get there. You alone, in your ignorance, have tripled the amount of time that it's going to take me to get through this because you are so obsessed with not being able to listen to what anyone else has to say because you're bringing up shit that nobody is fucking talking about.
Family all up and down the coast.
Yeah, Poilievre has not gotten his security clearance. That is still a thing, correct.
Believe that the rewards go to Alberta and they take all the risk. What's your message to them?
Well, the first thing, we were talking beforehand, my family, my parents from BC and extended family all up and down the coast interior on Vancouver Island as well.
See, this is what I mean. You think I'm ignorant because I disagree. No, I think you're ignorant because you're demonstrating your ignorance based on your lack of argumentation and your inability to successfully demonstrate or pull a citation or number. It's your behavior, not my assumption. See what I mean? I don't think my 2 cents actually learned anything from those disclosures. I think my 2 cents is just reciting a fistful of talking points that they don't even understand. Yes, exactly. What this is he's just reading off of a script. He's just reading off propaganda. They haven't actually gone through and read and investigated these things. This is what I mean when I say that they're ignorant. They don't know these things. They're just parroting these things. It's not any actual, they're not having a discussion, they're just talking at everybody, and they're mad that people don't just believe them because they said so. Their whole argument right now is, your hair sucks, and trust me, bro. And yes, they aren't being civil, correct.
Have some familiarity, let's put it.
Poilievre has security clearance. No, he doesn't. Oh my god. I wonder if that's going to come up in the video that we're going to watch with Poilievre in it.
That way. The first thing is that what the MOU does with Alberta is it creates some of what are the necessary conditions in order for, amongst other things, a pipeline to be proposed, but not the sufficient conditions.
Meaning that it won't necessarily get built.
Right. Well, meaning the following.
My Unfinished Journey, who's been a member for 15 months. Thank you so much, greatly appreciated. Hail Gabo, hail real country with real solutions. Yeah, that's the other problem. Again, you will notice that my 2 cents has not shown up with a counterpoint, and has not shown up with an argument, and has only showed up with vague buzzwords and accusations. That's it. Tell me, instead of telling me why you don't like Carney, tell me why I should like Poilievre. Tell me why I should like the conservative policies. Convince me. Go ahead.
Which is that for a pipeline to be built, the industrial carbon price has to be on this path to increase in Alberta. Secondly, there has to be the Pathways project. Thirdly, there has to be the methane. Fourth, these various aspects that are all agreed. It's all part of a package, a grand bargain, as the Premier has said.
And there's a duty to consult.
There's fundamentally a duty to consult, and we have been absolutely clear about this from the start. You can't consult about something that doesn't exist, so you have to create the possibility for it even to exist before you begin the consultations. Now we've created the possibility. There's still no pipeline proposal. And that's the other thing that's in the MOU. This is not government building a pipeline. It's if there is a private sector proponent who will build.
So if it
can I make another, if I may,
yeah, sure.
Crucial point here. So it's not just about...
Mark Carney has this really interesting way of like holding onto the conversation ball with, if I may. And then he proceeds to elaborate and talk more. It's a very polite way of being like, hold on, I have more to say about this. And it's a good tick to have. It's a good habit.
Consultation. What this government has been absolutely clear is that it is full Indigenous participation.
And this is part of, hold on, I'm going to talk about real quick again what my 2 cents is saying here. This is what I mean by the dishonesty that comes through with these conservatives things. Nobody asked about his reasoning as to why he might have it or not. Nobody's saying whether or not those reasons are justified or not. We said he didn't have it. And you said he did. Now you're saying he doesn't, but here's his reasons. The reasons were never part of the conversation. You're just shifting the goalposts. The fact is that he doesn't, and we all know he doesn't, and the fact that you knew that he didn't and lied about it, and now are trying to backpedal when you were proven to be a fucking liar, is kind of part of the problem. You're not civil. You're not engaging in discourse. You're here to propagandize. That's all you're here doing. And we all know we are here doing it. And this is what these people fucking do. This is the right-wing extremists. And this is something that the Conservative Party in Canada and the Republicans in the United States and most right-leaning things that are dealing with populism right now around the globe are just rife with. It's all over the place, and it's obnoxious, and it's annoying, and it's just fucking stupid. And the Conservatives would do good on themselves to stop behaving like the dumbest people in the room.
Sure.
Crucial point here. So it's not just about consultation. What this government has been absolutely clear is that it is full Indigenous participation in these major projects.
That's really important.
Means, obviously, economic benefit.
Full, I'm really like that. Full Indigenous participation. Absolutely here for that.
These major projects. That means, obviously, economic benefits if it is built, as it's built, and as it's operated, but also ownership. Ownership which we will help fund so that there is that ownership. We need the support, if there is a proposal, of First Nations and British Columbia. So it creates the possibility. I'm a firm believer and practitioner of cooperative federalism in all respects. So it's not just what we build, it's how we build it, building it inclusively, building it sustainably, and building it in solidarity. And
if after all those conditions are met and there's a proponent and there's consultation, and after consultation the answer is no, is there a plan B?
Look,
could there be a Keystone XL? Could that idea be revived?
There are other options.
Is that one of them?
On paper, it's an option. Yes, on paper, it's an option.
Are you actively considering
it? It provides, if I may, there was a lesser strategic advantage in sending. If part of our objective as a country, which Canadians across this country tell me is, and I believe is right, is to become more independent, to diversify from the United States. Having another pipeline to the United States is less advantageous. Just to be clear, there are advantages.
It gets Alberta oil to Tidewater.
There are advantages, but it's much less advantageous than having a new market and having the diversification there. But let me make a general point. What we're interested in these nation-building projects, we have 110 billion plus of them already identified. Everything from high-speed rail to major projects in the interior of British Columbia. Major hydro.
Oh my God, high-speed rail. You can tell that Carney really doesn't give a fuck about any of the people in the country when he talks about having fucking transportation that is available to everybody. Like something like a high-speed rail. Oh, bless. Trains! More trains! Let's go! Oh, man.
Projects, other aspects. What we're interested in is, what are people for? What are people for? We have more opportunities in this country than we can realistically do at one time. So we're working with Indigenous peoples, with provinces, with the private sector.
Man, you can really tell that somebody doesn't care about anybody when they're so invested and focused on making sure they're working with other people.
What are we for? What can we build? Let's build now. Become more independent, create better jobs for Canadians, better futures for our children. That's the
Man, better jobs are for Canadians and better future for our children. What an asshole, am I right? What the fuck? Kind of a communist shit is this? What a selfish prick.
opportunity. It's the one we need to grab.
Okay, my final topic is about affordability. The single biggest issue when I said I'm coming to interview you, and I asked you.
Babo said, "Did you know on high-speed rail only the top 1% fastest people can travel?" Damn it, you got me.
People, what matters to you most? And they said the cost of living.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
Yep.
There are so many people, as you know, millions of Canadians who are struggling to pay the rent, who have difficulty buying groceries because the cost of everything has risen so much. What is your message to them? Do you just need to be patient? Is that what your message is?
Well, it's certainly not. First is absolutely understand the scale of this issue, and we have acted on it, and we will continue to act on it. And let me be more specific, which is that we had this huge surge in inflation after the pandemic. And then the overall level of inflation is now back to
roughly where you want it to be.
2%, roughly where the bank should be. But the level of prices, that's different. The level of prices is still high. And on top of that, the food, the expenses of people who are less well off in the country are particularly high.
Yeah.
So the price of beef is high because of drought in the U.S. and challenges. The price of coffee has gone up, dramatically. So the price of groceries has gone up considerably. So there is this affordability issue. So what are we doing? First off, we cut taxes for everyone.
You mean it's a complicated, multi-pronged problem that you can't just snap your fingers and fix, and it's going to be a transitional period that we're going to have to go through to get things back to a reasonable level because there's gaps, very big gaps? Oh, wow, I'm shocked. God, could you imagine having a leader of a country knowing what the fuck they're talking about? Can't be. Unreal.
Everyone who pays taxes, 22 million Canadians. It was the first thing we did as a government. And this is material particularly for those less well off. Second thing we're doing is we have preserved all of the programs in a tough budget where we had to take tough decisions, a budget where we're saving $60 billion, a budget where we're cutting 10% of the public service, 20% of consultants in the last budget. We preserved, rightly, because these are fundamental. Childcare.
Oh man, conserving and making sure that there's social programs to help people in the budget? Wow, Carney sure seems like he doesn't care about anybody or anybody else but himself. Which dipshit in the side chat said that? Come back here. Did you run away? Get back here.
Day childcare, National School Food Program, which helps 400,000 of our least well-off children. We've made that permanent. Pharmacare, dental care, healthcare, the healthcare transfers to the provinces, all the things that help on the margin. It's not yet enough. What we have to do as well is we have to look for other opportunities, increase competition, get prices down. We have
Hey, those guys never fucking defined communism. God damn it. Couldn't even copy paste it from a Google AI search. Boo.
Fundamentally, what we have to do is grow the economy. Yes, we have to grow the economy.
And that's the part that's going to take time. And I think that's the thing when people say to me, well, how long is it going to take? Ask them how long it's going to take.
Well, look, we are doing a series of things, and we'll continue to look for others that help bridge over that period of time. But at the core is we have to.
There will be stopgap measures to help alleviate the transition period, but to ask how long that transition period is going to be is a reasonable question to ask, but not an easy question to answer. Stuff like this is also reliant on current global economic policies. It's not just about Canadian economics, it's about the global market. And the global market, as we talked about earlier, and as Mark Carney mentioned earlier, is in a fluid place, and I would say choppy waters, to put it lightly. It's not exactly stable. Most of that has to do with the behavior of one certain orange orangutan, but that's, everybody knows that. There's also two major wars going on, Palestine versus Israel, and you have Russia versus Ukraine. You have the rearmament of Europe going on, which now Canada is a part of and is the only country and or the first country that is, I don't know if they're still the only country, but they're the first country that is not part of the EU to get a deal about that. There is also Taiwan and China, which is, teetering on the edge of being a major problem. And then also whatever is going on with India and Pakistan, where they're usually poking at each other. So there's a handful of unstable, global, ongoing conflicts that could erupt into larger problems depending on who's going to do what. So things like deals with Indonesia, things like talking to China and making some changes about what we're tariffing and if we allow certain products to come from China into Canada and business from that regard, which I don't think is necessarily a bad idea. I think when you're dealing with China, I think you need to be cautious, but I don't think you need to say no. There's also, again, dealing with India, Japan as well. Like, India is a massive fucking market. So being able to get into that market would help Canada's economic situation, but how long is it going to take to do that is I don't fucking, it depends on how equitable they are to negotiating and discussing that. And it's not like all of these countries aren't also finding ways to circumvent the United States and making deals amongst themselves without Canada. It's not going to be possible for us to have our hand in every single cookie jar, and it's probably not advisable to have your hand in every single cookie jar, right? But these things do take time. Having stopgap measure plans in between to help ease that transitional period is great. We need that. But you're not going to be able to tell, oh yeah, no, it'll be done in 3 years. Yeah, it's going to take decades. You're looking at least a 5-year period before things start stabilizing again, maybe. And part of that has to do with whatever the United States decides to do, because the United States is a really big market. If you want to talk about what things are going to be like when everything and the dust has settled, you're probably looking at least a decade. At least a decade before you're going to start seeing more stability. But hopefully, what we can do is we can take advantage of that time, right? Did 2 cents run out of spare change? Yeah, I guess so. They ran away. They couldn't handle it. The snowflake melted. Oh, so sad.
To grow this economy, and we have
no extreme right-wing dipshits, fucking script flinging moron ever survives in this chat for very long.
have to grow this economy in a way that makes it more independent, more sustainable, that works with provinces and works with Indigenous people. We have to do all of those things. That's why we're in such a hurry. That's why we're doing the major projects. That's why we're launching Build Canada Homes, which will be cheaper homes as they're built for Canadians. That's why we're striking all these trade deals internationally. That's why this job, it's one of the reasons why this job where we started is relentless. It should be relentless. And look, we're making progress. We got to keep on this track. We're in a stronger position than we were 9 months ago at the start of the year, but we got to keep going, and we will keep going.
Prime Minister, thank you for taking time with us, and happy holidays to you and your
to you.
family.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
All right, so that's the first one. Oh, puppy dog eyes versus death stare. Get out of here. All right. Stop. Cease. Desist. All right, we got to move on to the second one. All right, so we're going to talk about Perre Poilievre next, but I'm going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back. Yeah, put the counter at 3 for the number of right-wing extremists getting chased off the channel by, you know, facts and logic and argumentation. Counters at 3 this year so far. Good shit. So I'll be right back after a oh, that's something that didn't happen this year. Where the fuck was the war on Christmas? I didn't see a single fucking thing about the war on Christmas this year. What the fuck happened? Anyway, I'll be right back after this break. Hey, welcome back. Hello. I've returned. Time to look at what Poilievre has to say. Which is always a good time. Poilievre always has the funniest things to say. I find, just from a personal standpoint, I do find Mark Carney more enjoyable to listen to because his mannerisms are not as annoying as Poilievre's. Poilievre, yeah, it looks like a green screen. I don't know if it is. It doesn't make any, the shadows and lighting of the background. Yeah, this is fucking, like, this looks fake. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Anyway, like, this light is here, but the shadow is going this way on the chairs. Like, it looks fake probably because it is fake. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah, Carney is more charismatic than Poilievre is, to put it that way. Poilievre is tone, his way of talking to people is just condescending most of the time, and it's mostly, in my experience so far, maybe he'll change my mind this time. Temu Mike Johnson. Yeah, and Carney seems like he's like actually having a conversation as opposed to just running a script, which is very much Poilievre's go-to. It's very, very scripted. But you know, maybe he'll change my mind. Let's go. I'm open-minded. We'll see. Let's see what he has to say.
Good to see you. Thanks for taking time with us today.
Likewise, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thanks. You too. 2025, let's talk about it. It hasn't been the easiest year for you. The Conservatives did receive 41% of the popular vote in the last election. You have a lot of loyal support right across this country, which I'm sure you're very proud of. Mm-hmm. But you didn't win the election, and you didn't win your own seat. That would be a big blow to a lot of people in your position. Have you reflected on what went wrong?
Well, I have reflected, and you're right, it is a big blow to a lot of people who voted for, in record numbers actually, voted for affordable food, affordable homes.
Oh my god, that's not what she said. She said it would be a big blow to someone in your position, not a big blow to somebody who voted for you. Although it probably is also a big blow to them too, but oh my fucking god. I've reflected, but I'm not gonna tell you how or in what way that I've reflected. I'm gonna pretend that the implication that anybody who didn't vote for him voted against affordable food and affordable homes is actually insane, especially after we just watched Mark Carney talk about his policies and plans for what he actually intends to do to rectify the affordability problem. Oh, brother. Oh god, I made it 40 seconds. Oh my god. If she had stopped speaking after your old seat and just pointed and laughed for 5 minutes, that would have been gold. Yeah, that would have been pretty funny.
Safer streets after 10 years of inflation and rising crime.
Inflation doesn't... It's not how inflation works. It's rising inflation. Oh yeah, the rising crime is also a lie, by the way. That's also not true. We've talked about that before on other ones, so I'm not going to go into it here, but you can go and look at the crime statistics. The crime statistics, for the most part, have been pretty flat. There's not like some big rising crime that's happening. That's a lie. Inflation is expected to rise by about 2% is considered healthy. Yeah, inflation on its own is not bad. It's the gap that's the problem right now, and inflation has been brought down by the Liberal Party to the lowest inflation of the G7. Exactly as they promised.
We always reflect on how we can continue to inspire those 8.3 million people.
He wants to inspire people. He doesn't want to actually do anything.
Record number who voted for us, but how we can inspire even more. And so my message for the year to come will be one of hope. I think people desperately need hope. Hope that they can afford groceries, hope they can afford homes. And many have put hope in me in the past.
But what have you reflected on? What are you doing to change? What adjustments are you making? God, he can't answer a question.
But we have to keep inspiring them so that more will do so in the future.
All right, I'm putting a poll. Do you guys think he's actually going to answer a single question? He's at 0 for 1 right now. I'm going to start a poll. Do you think he's going to answer a question? Do you think he will answer a single question? Yes, no. I don't think he's going to directly answer a single fucking question. I have no faith in this man.
Meant with respect was a big blow to you personally. Have you reflected on what went wrong in the campaign?
So she asks again more specifically. That's very funny.
Your own leadership.
Well, yes, I have reflected, and obviously, I think my goal and one of the adjustments that we need to make is that people know that I'm a fighter, but they need to know what I'm fighting for and who I'm fighting for. You know, I'm not fighting for the sake of fighting. It's for fighting for the people.
I think that's perhaps the reputation you've developed among people who didn't vote for you, certainly, that you oppose for the sake of opposing.
And so what I...
That still doesn't answer the question. I've reflected and realized that I'm oppressed. Oh my god. He's like, oh, I've reflected that people don't actually understand what I'm saying. Oh no. He's reflected and it's everyone else's fault. Yeah, that doesn't... Oh, brother.
I have to do is show them who I'm fighting for and what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for that single mother who's anxious as she walks down the grocery aisle because the prices are...
He's repeating the same thing he just said, affordability. Oh no. Oh, my heartstrings. That doesn't solve a problem, my guy. It's about your leadership, not your... Oh, he's so bad.
So high she wonders if it will empty her bank account before she empties out her grocery card. I'm fighting for the young guy I just met in Montreal a couple days ago who says that his...
All right, one in the chat if you actually think he met somebody in... he met a young man in... what did he say? In Montreal. Do you think he actually met somebody in Montreal that said this? 1 in the chat for yes, 2 in the chat for no. Anything that's not a 1 or a 2 will be considered a no. Do you think this is a real story he's about to tell us? He does this every time. He has the same fucking response cycle all the time. Basically, you could take any commentary and just keep applying it to the new shit that he says, because he doesn't actually say anything new. He just does the same fucking shit over and over again.
House on his street where his dad bought a home for $100 grand in the 90s now goes for $1 million, and he doesn't believe he'll ever be able to move out of his home. I'm fighting for him. I'm fighting for the mother who wants to get treatment for her son who's addicted to drugs.
Becca said, I was annoyed with Carney for not directly answering the very hard question of how long, but I'd forgotten just how mealy-mouthed PP can be. Yeah, I do wish we did have a better timeline answer from Carney about how long it would take, but I understand why there isn't really an answer, right? So, oh, you've provided some graphs, have you? You're sending me graphs? Look at this graph. Oh, hey, this is the crime graph we were talking. This is exactly what I was referring to about look at that rise in crime. Gosh darn. Wow, what a rise. Oh, look, there was kind of a rise in 2015 and it's on its way down now as of 2023. Let me zoom that in a little bit more so you can see it a little better. All right, what do we got here? Police reported crime rate. Chart 19, police reported crime. Oh, wow, what a rise in crime. Wow. Overall crime rates in the past 40 years. Ooh. Oh yeah, for this one, the black line is the United States. You can see the grid, the legend at the bottom. This is the United States. This is Canada. Look at the bottom of this one. Like, right, this fucking shit. Oh, wow, what a rise. It's crazy. Whoa. The rise in crime shit is such nonsense bullshit. It's wonderful. All right, moving on.
I'm fighting for those people, so it's
But I
the
feel like
why.
you were fighting for those things in the last election,
And those
too.
people.
Yes.
So then what did you reflect on, and what is that an adjustment of, and what are you changing? Is it nothing? It sounds like nothing. It sounds like you're just going to do the same thing over and over again. Oh, wow.
But it didn't work for you.
Well, we did get the biggest vote count in our history, but I don't give up. So some people might say, you know, just give up, throw in the towel. But the people I just described...
You should probably give up and throw in the towel. You kind of suck at this.
They don't give up. The the wounded veteran abandoned by his government doesn't give up. Neither do the families that...
You can't help them in the way you say you can help them unless you are in power.
Well, I sure can't help them if I give up. I have to fight on like they fight on. And their future is worth fighting for. That's why I'm in this. I mean, I come from very humble beginnings myself. And this only in Canada that someone, you know, with my humble start in life, raised by a couple of teachers, that could get to this point. But I want that promise to be available for...
You know, people made fun of Trudeau for being a teacher, so it's kind of interesting to me that Poilievre leans on having teacher parents as a talking point, as if that matters.
For everybody. And that's why I keep
He's
going.
just tooting his own horn, by the way. He hasn't actually answered any of the questions.
That's why I keep fighting, and that's why...
And Gord makes a good point. Sorry, I'll put this back. I know I'm interrupting him here a bit, so I'll put him back so we can hear the whole thing. Gord makes a good point. His ideas haven't changed since he was 16, so he doesn't give up on them. Right? That's such a good callback. Unreal. Because nothing has changed in the world at all since Poilievre was 16, right? There's been no changes at all that might require some adjustment in perspective. This is just disregarding his own lack of personal development, because there's no other word that would describe someone having the exact same position and ideas and direction as they were 16. It means you haven't learned anything and you haven't grown as a person in any way, shape, or form, which is kind of that's kind of horrifying. Like, that sounds like some SCP shit.
Humble start in life, raised by a couple of teachers that could get to this point. But I want that promise to be available for everybody. And that's why I keep going, that's why I keep fighting, and that's why I never give up.
And in the lead up to the last election, you were way ahead in the polls, if we believe the polls. You were on your way to becoming Prime Minister when Justin Trudeau was still around. When he left and a new Liberal leader came on the scene, your lead in the polls began to diminish to the point where, as we said, you lost the election. So something happened in that time, and you can argue that more Canadians put their faith in Mark Carney as a leader than in you.
Well, what happened?
Yeah. So what have you reflected on?
Was that we got a record number of votes, and the highest share of vote we've got since 1988.
I know you.
Hey, bro, does this sound anything like Donald Trump to anybody else? My votes, though, my votes were so big, my numbers were so many, not many enough. Jesus Christ, dude, what are you talking about?
I keep saying that, but I understand that.
I know you keep saying that, and I understand that. Can you move on?
True.
Yes, but I'm trying to move, if you don't mind, I'm trying to move a little bit beyond that to say, how do you broaden the tent now? You were fighting for, I think, a lot of the same things you were fighting for before, and as I said, you have a lot of very loyal support. But if you want to take it to the next level, if you're still leader when the next election is held, how do you...
If you're still leader when the next election is held. Spicy.
Change that equation.
Well, my plan is affordability, affordability, affordability. That is the single...
There is no change. There is no change. He's doing... No. This is so bad for the Conservatives, guys. It's not even like I'm trying to say, like, I'm not even trying to be mean about this, but this dude is literally not doing Conservatives any fucking favors. At all. Get a better guy.
Leader when the next election is held. How do you change that equation?
Well, my plan is affordability, affordability, affordability. That is the
egg prices.
single biggest issue facing Canadians. after 10 years of liberal inflation. So how do we...
It's not liberal inflation. It is global inflation. It doesn't matter whether you're conservative or liberal. That's not going to change that at all. That's not how that works. Liberal inflation. Does that mean when the big housing market economic crash happened in 2005, it was the conservative market economic crash? No, it was a global economic crash. If the liberals were in power during COVID, does that mean it was the liberals' COVID? No, that's not how that fucking works, dude. If that were the case, then it would be Donald Trump's COVID, because Donald Trump was president at the time. Oh my god, this is so dumb. Affordability is a democratic hoax. Slogans are plans. It's the concept of a plan, guys. It's the concept of a plan. Yeah, the inflation has been a global problem that has more to do with the lack of regulation around capitalism and the boom in the tech industry. It doesn't really matter which party you're talking about. There are some parties that will handle it better than others. The conservatives have a notoriously bad track record of how they handle GDP and economics. Right? Notoriously bad. So the fact that people view the conservatives for some reason as being economically responsible is kind of insane to me. I don't know how they've managed to hold on to that moniker or that vibe that people actually think that, because if you look at the numbers, they don't actually pan out that way at all. So I don't know why people think the conservatives are like more like less risk, better economically, and like economically save more money, because they definitively don't do that. So
we take it to the next level. We go to more people and tell them that we're going to cut back on the inflationary deficit so that dollars.
So his argument and what he wants to do is campaign more? Pierre Poilievre spent so much tax money on campaigning before the election, which is questionable at best. And so he just wants to do more of that? So he wants to just go and preach and propagandize to people his message about inspiring people with no plan at all? He's not going to provide a plan. He's not going to say any plan at all.
Dollars go further. We make clear that we're going to cut taxes on work, investment, energy, and home building, so that people bring...
I will remind you all is that he wanted to provide a 20% tax on 15% of taxes that you were paying to give you X amount of dollars, and that was supposed to solve the housing crisis. And his other housing plan was to let people get like a 2-for-1 deal on houses, which isn't worth anything if you can't afford a house in the first place. So it was a massive cut for wealthier people and companies that could afford to buy up all these homes at a cheaper price. So these things just the math doesn't math. If you're making $1,000 and you're paying 15% tax on that $1,000, and this guy comes in and says, we're going to cut 20% of your taxes, he's not jumping your taxes from 15 down to -10. He is cutting 20% of that 15. So what is 20% of 15? That's the amount of a tax cut you would get. Now, how much of that is on $1,000, and how much of that would it take? How long would it take for you to get a down payment for a house? Or how much of your rent is that going to pay? The math doesn't math. Yeah, 2-for-1. People only need one house. Yeah, exactly. He was basically like, hey, listen, if you buy more than one property at a time, you're going to get a tax cut. What?
Home more and they pay less. We're also going to talk a lot, I've said affordability, but there's also the issue of crime. I mean, 10 years of catch and release has left Canadians endangered.
All right, we're going to pull up the crime. He brought up crime again, so let's pull these up while he's talking. Blah, 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 crime, blah, 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 crime. I guess I should just have these on standby, this fucking guy. Unreal with this man. Crime! So he's brought up affordability. We should have done a counter. He brought up affordability. He brought up veterans. He brought up housing. And he brought up crime. And those are his like 4 main talking points, right? So let's see if he does it again. Let's see how many times he repeats himself. EMP said for 5 said spice it up. Oh, we're well away from the spice. I don't know if we're gonna hit that today.
We're going to repeal catch and release, lock up the criminals, and make it so people feel safe again in their...
No, not 20% on $15. 20% on 15% of $1,000.
Communities. There's immigration. We'll be talking about the fact that immigration is still out of control, and the government is allowing criminals and false refugee claimants to come in and undermine our security and drain our taxpayers. So those...
Says the guy who uses taxpayer money to preach and go around the country to campaign, and the guy who also doesn't have his security clearance. Yeah, your opinion about this isn't really worth much, Mr. Hypocrite.
These are all issues that we need to talk about in order to broaden our tent and win the support of...
Wait, how does that broaden your tent at all? You're talking about the same shit you were talking about last year. None of these things changed. These are all the same things. That doesn't broaden your tent at all.
For an affordable, safe Canada under a Conservative government.
Is it possible that in the last election, many Canadians just thought you weren't the man for the moment, and that it's your leadership that's the issue?
Well, my leadership got us a record number of votes. I know you...
That's the 3rd time he's answered a question with, we got record number of votes, but still wasn't enough. Oh my fucking god, this is why people didn't think he was the man for the job. He's Mike Johnson from fucking Temu imitating Donald Trump, and Canadians don't like Donald Trump. The majority of Canadians have been very, very clear that they do not like Donald Trump, and the majority of Canadians are very, very clear in seeing what Donald Trump is doing to the United States and how problematic his behavior and his policies are, disregarding the fact of all the crime and felony stuff he's been fucking found guilty of. So why would Canadians want this fucking asshole? He would have just kowtowed to whatever Trump wanted, and we would have been in such a fucking bad position. Hawkskull says the cope. Brother! That is what this is. Oh my god. He's Trump with a better grasp of language. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, our Trump, we already did our Trump, and it was Harper, in my opinion. But conversation for another day.
No, you don't like me.
No, you said it. I think that's the 4th time.
It is a fact, though, right?
And you don't like me saying that. No, it's not that we don't like you saying that. It's that you've already said it, and it doesn't answer the question.
And I think we led on all the issues. We led on fighting inflation, opposing carbon taxes, unblocking our...
Why are you still opposing the carbon tax? The carbon tax has already been changed and adjusted and is now more successful, it seems to be. Oh my god.
Opposing carbon taxes.
How? Opposing the carbon tax with what? What are you going to replace it with? Fighting inflation with what? What policy are you gonna do? What do you want? Tell Elmo. You wanna know why when any time a conservative comes in here, they can't tell me what their plan is or convince me of their plan is because they don't fucking have one. They just want to sit around and bitch and moan like whiny piss ants every single time. And it's just like, and all they want to do is complain that, well, the plan you're doing isn't perfect in the exact way I want. And even if it was, I would misinterpret and misrepresent it. So it wouldn't be what I wanted anyway. Who fucking cares? Unreal.
Unblocking our resources,
and you've
treating
accused
addiction.
The Liberals of stealing your ideas.
Not quite. I want them.
Yeah, he did do that.
Steal my ideas. I would say that they have stolen
the carbon tax. That was the first thing that Mark Carney asked, and then as you wanted.
Right. He's stealing my words, but not the deeds. So let's go with the carbon tax. So he did back down and reverse himself and get rid of the visible part of the carbon tax.
that wasn't a change. Mark Carney didn't backtrack on anything. He said early on that he was going to change the carbon tax and he was going to axe it and he was going to get rid of it. That he was going to change it. So, like, he didn't change anything. That's just a lie.
But we still have an liberal industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and steel.
Yes, because he reduced the taxes for the people, not for the industries. So individuals are paying less taxes, but the conglomerate companies and corporate are still paying their taxes. What's the problem? That sounds like a kind of perfect solution.
And all the things it takes to build a home, driving up housing and food costs. He's also
It has not seemed to have done that at all.
In
Why would it drive up the tax? Why would it drive up the costs if it didn't change? It might have driven up the costs initially, but why would it drive the costs up now with zero change? Oh my god. So Letty in the chat said, Poilievre would not do well in debate. I should show you guys fucking Poilievre trying to debate in Parliament, because that's something you can watch happen in real time. It is some of the funniest shit you've ever seen in your life. This man couldn't debate himself out of a wet paper bag. It's hilarious. One of my favorites is, oh, what's his name? Sean? Hold on. I follow him on Blue Sky. Let me go find him. He's currently the defense minister, I think. He was the housing minister for Trudeau. He retired and then came out of retirement when Carney asked him to run, and he's from Nova Scotia. Sean Fraser. That's his name. Sean Fraser. Dude is absolutely fucking hilarious. He just absolutely decimates Poilievre on the regular, and it is one of my favorite things to watch. Here's his Blue Sky profile if you want to go and check this guy out. I highly recommend checking him out. He's a very, very, very funny.
New fuel tax that started this year, but it's going up to 7 cents a liter next year. So yes, he steals my words because he knows my ideas are very popular, but he doesn't actually put them into practice. Or let's take crime. He claims to agree with me on bail, but he's blocking his own bail bill in the House of Commons, and so criminals still get out of jail within hours of their most recent arrest. Or on pipelines, he voted against the very pipeline he was promising just a week earlier in a recent vote in the House of Commons. So it is true that they're stealing my words,
he didn't
but
really
they're
vote
not
against.
my deeds.
In fairness, he didn't really vote against his own pipeline plans. You put forward an opposition motion, which
I like how whatever he just said was so absurd that that the interviewer's like, hold on. You know the voting records are public, right? You can look at Poilievre's voting record and see that he has voted down and against affordable housing for years. And in fact, you want to know who was part of the housing commission? Commission might not be the right word. Part of the housing minister, part of the cabinet, whatever, for Harper was Poilievre. So it's almost like the problem that he's complaining about is his fault.
Liberals said was a stunt, a political tactic. So it wasn't really. His plan is still out there. And by the way, the leader, the Premier of Alberta is very happy with it. What do you make of the fact that the Premier of Alberta and Mark Carney got along great when they met and signed this memorandum of understanding to build another pipeline?
You mean the very conservative Danielle got along and signed an agreement, a memorandum agreement with Carney? Wow. Egg on face.
So a couple of things. One, I'm glad that Danielle Smith forced Mr. Carney to flip-flop on the...
He's so petty. He's such a little bitch. Yeah, Danielle Smith forced Carney to flip-flop. That is definitely an accurate set of words to describe the thing that definitely happened.
Threatened liberal production cuts to the oil and gas sector and their costly regulations on the electricity sector. Mr. Carney has not committed to building a pipeline. He opposed the pipeline in question. He testified against the pipeline in question in a parliamentary committee in 2021. And of course,
I feel like what we should have done is we should have like juxtaposed. They should have looked at Poilievre saying this and then looked at Mark Carney's answer. That maybe I'll edit that together later. It's for a video format for this because that'd be very funny.
the Liberal government.
He wasn't in when? He wasn't
in 2021. I can give you
the
the
Prime
video.
Minister then. He's
Right.
the Prime Minister now.
He
Right.
wasn't the Prime Minister in 2021. I like that the interviewer from Global News is giving him pushback and is equally as confused about what he's saying as everybody else because he's just making up random shit that is totally irrelevant. If anything, this is like slander.
But he was testifying
So
before.
are you suggesting that, I know you suggest that he's doing this, it's disingenuous, this deal he has signed, the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta. You don't think it's real?
That's correct. And I'll give you the background. He opposed.
If you don't think it's real, then how did Danielle Smith force him to flip-flop? Those two things can't be true. Either she successfully forced him, or she didn't. God, he's so embarrassing.
Opposed the pipeline. He testified.
You'll notice that none of the conservatives that came by to talk about Carney are here to defend Poilievre, by the way. It's almost like the things this man says are indefendable. Undefendable. Indefensible. It's almost like all of them are more interested in being angry at Mark Carney than arguing for their own points. Go figure. Because they have no points.
Before a parliamentary committee against that same pipeline. The Liberal government killed that same pipeline in 2016, and numerous Liberal members of the present caucus have already made social media posts saying it will never happen. So he understands that pipelines are very popular, so he wants to pretend he supports one until after the next election while telling people that he won't ever build one.
And
But I think we need
Danielle Smith, the Conservative Premier of
2016, a decade ago. Yeah, things have changed. Go figure.
Alberta seems very happy with the potential of another pipeline under Mark Carney.
Well, I want to see the reality, and she said that under my leadership we'd be well on the way to getting the pipeline done.
Right, but
she
you
just
didn't
said
win
that
the
So what? But you didn't win! Oh my god. Fucking Pierre Poilievre is still so rattled, but in the fact that he's no longer dealing with Justin Trudeau and that he lost his own seat and lost a fucking like 40-point lead. He's stuck. He's stuck in a loop, guys.
their day. Well, that's why I need to win the next one, and then we can actually get some
By
projects.
changing nothing and continuing to do the exact same shit with no plan and no arguments and just embarrassing myself constantly.
Done, because this pipeline will be fantastic when it happens under a Conservative government. $30 billion a year in overseas exports, less dependence on the American.
I would like to remind everybody that 1, it takes time to build a pipeline, and 2, the price of oil and the desire and demand of oil is in the future going down. Like, it's already peaked. So everybody is shifting to green energy. So making a big investment into future sales of oil 10, 20 years from now is not a very economically smart investment to be making. Now, it doesn't mean that under the right circumstances, with the right caveats on it, it can't work. It might, but not the way this guy's describing it.
About $1,800 in benefits per family per year, and a stronger Canadian dollar, which will make our lives more affordable to buy homes and food. And
homes and food, take a drink. We really should just have a drinking game for every time Poilievre just repeats himself and answers a different question with the same shit over and over again. Also, by the by, the strength of the Canadian dollar is a little bit of a misnomer. Specifically because, 1, the US dollar is incredibly unstable right now, And two, there is a decent chance that the global market is going to move away from utilizing the American dollar as the through line for everybody. And this is something that Mark Carney had talked about before he was prime minister. He has written about and talked about that having one country in control of the economic market in that regard isn't necessarily a very safe thing to be doing or a good idea in the first place. On top of like the US's like overhanded control over the economic market through the use of the dollar is a definitive like problem that everybody's like, wow, this is a fucking issue now that we gotta deal with because Donald Trump is a fucking problem. I'm still banking on Donald Trump's gonna start printing money. It's good. I bet you he will. Like, I'm just waiting for that to like that. He's still got 3 years to go. I'm banking that he's absolutely gonna be fucking printing money. We did have a discussion about it over on Debate Hub, if you're interested, where we're talking about economic stuff and whether or not like it'll change to a different dollar. I don't know. I don't know if you'd be able to get everybody to agree on like using something like the euro or the rupee. The rupee is actually probably one of the most stable, well accounted for options. But I don't know if that'll be the case. But I do think that there will be a handful of countries that won't want to sign on a new one regardless. So there's a decent chance that everybody's just going to kind of use whatever they are already using. But we'll see. We'll see.
Why do you think that you would get a pipeline built faster? What would you do to make that happen?
Get out of the way, because that's all that needs to happen right now. These pipelines...
So he would do nothing.
Way of what?
The pipeline construction. So the federal government is the only level of government that needs to approve the pipeline. Under our Constitution, Section 92, the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction to approve or reject an interprovincial pipeline. The reason it doesn't happen, even though it's wildly profitable and popular, is that there is no federal permit to build it.
Pipelines are not popular. I don't know why he thinks that's the case. Every time there's a pipeline, there's a big fucking upheaval about it from the Green Party and from First Nations groups and from environmentalists and from scientists, etc., etc., etc. So I don't know where he's getting that from, that they're wildly popular. That's also just an ad populum fallacy. People like it, so therefore it's a good idea. No.
And the previously approved pipeline was then canceled by this Liberal government in 2016. So if we get the government out of the way, approve a right...
The Liberal government put in a pipeline, by the way. It was one of the ones that Poilievre was standing in front of during his fucking speech.
...way, the private sector can then go ahead and build a pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta, to the coast. And so all we really need to do is get the Prime Minister out of the way, because he is the...
Red Cedar makes a good point. What company is waiting for a permit to start building? Zero. None of them. There isn't... That's not currently a thing that exists.
Only one who has the authority to approve or reject
What
one.
about the duty to consult with Indigenous leaders?
We should do that.
You would do that?
Of course.
And what if after those consultations, the answer is still no?
Well, the answer is given by the Prime Minister. And I'm running...
I'm saying if the Indigenous leaders say no.
That I will thank them for their input, and at the end of the day, the Prime Minister has to decide. And my decision, and I'm telling Canadians before the election so they can vote on it, is I will approve a pipeline. Nobody has a veto.
So then what's the point of the consultation? You're like, I'm gonna pander to the the First Nations people and then ignore whatever they're gonna say anyway because I've already made the decision that we're gonna do the pipeline regardless of what they have to say? So what's the point of the consultation? What a bully and an autocrat. Yes, Feline, that is absolutely. What a bully and an autocrat. What a condescending piece of shit this guy is. I mean, I guess, fair enough. I guess he is letting us know exactly the kind of person he is. So what does that happen? What happens if you're a veteran and he's doing something where veterans should be consulted about? Oh, you mean he's going to do the exact same thing to them? Oh, okay, well, what if you're LGBTQ? Oh, same thing? Oh, okay, well, what if you're a middle-class white woman? And he's going to do something like, I don't know, get rid of abortion. Oh, yeah, well, you can talk to me like you're talking to a wall, and literally nothing will matter. I'm just going to do whatever I want anyway. Irregardless of what's popular, irregardless of experts, irregardless of what anybody fucking tells me, whatever I thought when I was 16 is what I'm gonna do. What year was that again? Oh, hold on, let me find out. I did this math before, but let's do it again. Let's go to Perre Poilievre. I gotta find out how, like, what year that was. There's his Wikipedia. So he was born in, when were you born? 1979. So let's get a calculator out. He's 46. 46 minus 16 that was 30 years ago. So it's 26 minus 30. So he was 16 in 1996. Nothing at all has changed or happened since 1996, guys. Woo! Oh, man.
No, not under our Constitution. There's a duty to consult.
There's a duty to consult, but if the answer is...
There's a duty to consult, but the consultation is meaningless, is kind of not doing the duty, though, right? Like, that's not, you're not really... Windows 95! This man is a clown!
The consultations, we don't want this. It won't matter to you.
It's actually, first of all, I wouldn't say it wouldn't matter. I would go ahead with the pipeline, and I would also clarify that when the Liberals killed this pipeline last time, in 2016, 75% of Indigenous communities along the path supported it. They overrode and overpowered those First Nations communities, and I think it's a really unfortunate stereotype to say
that is not what happened.
First Nations are against pipelines when the evidence is the overwhelming majority of them support it, although I think the media sometimes tries to stereotype that they're all against it.
I
That's
think
not
at
true.
the latest Assembly of First Nations meeting, there's a unanimous vote in supporting the Pacific Northwest Coast Indigenous leaders who don't want a pipeline.
Well, the
Womp womp. I'm glad that this interviewer actually came with some fucking facts and statistics and citations to just throw in this man's face. I applaud this. Very well done.
the last pipeline from northern Alberta to the Pacific had 75% of the First Nations communities along the route supporting it and benefiting from it. And we have these First Nations leaders in my own caucus who, for example, like Billy Morin, who is a former chief of the Inuk First Nation.
Guys, some of my best friends are First Nations. I'm not being racist right now. I'm not being racist by ignoring their entire political process. I don't know what you're talking about. You're the one being racist.
And his community has been enriched because oil and gas has been allowed to expand. First Nations support oil and gas. Liberals and liberal elites often try to stereotype and stigmatize First Nations as being opposed to pipelines, but we need to get them built.
I think we should let Indigenous leaders who oppose it speak for themselves, first of all.
Hey, there you go. I think we should let Indigenous leaders speak for them fucking selves instead of overriding them and whatever they're saying by citing that I have a friend.
But and there are those who do oppose it. So all I'm asking you is, what would you do in that case? And it sounds like you're saying you would override.
Could I ask?
Yep, that is good job. Thank you for cutting through that bullshit.
What the Liberals did when they killed the pipeline, they overrode.
Stop saying they killed the pipeline. That's not what happened. God.
They overrode and ignored the 75% who are in favor, who were in favor of the project. So those who want to kill projects, they're consistently trampling on First Nations people who would benefit from the jobs, from the revenue for clean drinking water and for schools that would result. Liberals consistently use these as excuses. We don't need more excuses. We've had 10 years of...
Yeah, it's definitely not good for education to have children fed in school. Keeping the social programs in the budget, definitely not good for helping people. I don't know what you're talking about.
Blocking projects, making our economy more dependent on the Americans, driving down our dollar.
That's Justin Trudeau did was start on the work and the groundwork to untangle us from the United States. One thing that people are actually critical of him of doing, and they were critical of him for going to visit China. He went to China to go talk to the CCP and the leaders at the time, and that was something that people were critical of him for doing. This is exactly what I mean when I say that Mark Carney doing what he was doing, doing what he's doing right now, it would have been panned as a bad idea if Donald Trump wasn't an annoying piece of shit punching us in the head, because a lot of the foundational work had already been done by Justin Trudeau that people just don't realize that he was doing. Admittedly, he was pretty subtle about it. He wasn't very like, this is what I'm doing. He was very much like low-key about that this was what he was doing, but a lot of people just didn't notice, and a lot of people got caught up in a lot of the propaganda, part of which was paid for by Russia and Russian bots isn't the word, Russian shills, that shill's the word I'm looking for, that were like blatantly in support of Perre Poilievre. I will remind you that Perre Poilievre was a part of the truckers. He was a part of all that. There's also questions about how his wife's uncle or something got into the country because his immigration status is questionable and seems to have gone through some backdoors. And that's part of the reasons, both of those things are part of the reasons why a lot of people speculate that he doesn't want to get his security clearance. Because if he got a security clearance, it opens up that he would be investigated, right? And all of that shit would come out.
And driving up the cost of living, we need a prime minister who will take a clear stand and say, let's get out of the way and let's get building.
Let me ask you about what's happened in your country.
That is basically Mark Carney's slogan, though. His slogan is basically build Canada. So getting out of the way and building and enabling building is something that Carney is doing, which is what is one of the things that is attracting other conservatives to potentially crossing the floor or at least agreeing with bills that are being put forward. So Poilievre is getting exactly what he wants, but he just doesn't like that he's not getting the credit for it and would rather be doing nothing. He would rather be getting the credit and doing none of the work. I'm not convinced that Perre Poilievre could do the work that Carney is doing, because he hasn't demonstrated any capability of doing so. Perre Poilievre also isn't very good at talking to liberals.
Caucus recently in the last month. You've lost a couple of MPs. Two of them have crossed the floor. One is resigning.
A lot of conservatives also fucking hate this guy because he's an authoritarian dick waffle. So, like, if they don't step in line with him, he punishes them or kicks them out of the party.
Does that send any signals to you about your leadership?
It sends a signal to me that the Prime Minister is trying to manipulate his way to the majority that Canadians...
What? He's trying to manipulate these people who have crossed over willingly on their own? My guy. Being persuasive does not necessarily mean you are being manipulative. This is because Poilievre doesn't know how to be persuasive. And also he's just, again, we're back to this is just slander. Yeah, and deflection. Yeah, he has no personal accountability at all. He's not willing to take on any personal accountability. Do you not think that seems bad for a leader of a country to have zero responsibility? And take on zero accountability or onus of their own actions? Doesn't seem like a very leadery type to me, but what do I know? Maybe conservatives just like weenie losers, because that seems to be the case. That seems to be what's going on. It seems to be because they have some kind of attachment or emotional recognition of like, I'm like that. So you're a weenie loser. Okay.
Voters denied him during the election so that he can go forward with a very costly and unpopular
So you're
agenda.
blaming Mark Carney for Conservative MPs leaving your caucus?
He has been trying...
Yep. Yeah, he is.
Blaming Mark Carney for Conservative MPs leaving your caucus?
He has been trying to orchestrate and manipulate a majority that Canadians denied him with dirty backroom and costly deals so that he can implement a costly and unpopular agenda.
As you make these accusations of him, what are you suggesting he or the Liberals did to attract?
I don't think all Conservatives are like this, by the way. That's why we're talking about the difference between the Conservatives that are willing to cross the line or the Conservatives that are willing to work with Mark Carney, as opposed to the people who just come in and spout script for Poilievre's propaganda, right? There's a difference between, like, you know, your average, like, center-right conservative, right? That is a different person than the fucking right-wing extremists who have infiltrated and have co-opted the Conservative coalition, in my humble opinion. I think the majority of Conservatives in Canada actually do have two brain cells and can do the math and understand how problematic it is for a leader to do nothing but pass the buck and take on no accountability whatsoever. And I think Conservatives see that, which is why you see Conservatives crossing the floor. That's why you see Conservatives being like, wow, actually what Mark Carney has to say or what he's doing aligns with the things that I want, regardless of whether or not he's wearing a red tie or a blue tie, because it's not about whether or not he's wearing a red tie or a blue tie. It's about moving forward on what we can agree on and what we want as a country. And there are a lot of Conservatives and a lot of Liberals who agree on things like affordability and housing prices. The problem is that the Conservatives have allowed a group of Conservatives to drive their bus into the ground. Get a new leader, please. He's making you all look really bad.
Attract Conservative MPs.
Well, they've been telling Conservative MPs to help form a costly majority government so that he can go ahead.
Why is it a costly majority government? What's the cost that you're talking about?
With a very expensive and unpopular agenda that he would never be able to do if he faced the risk of an election. And I think that if he
already won the election. What do you mean? You're supposed... This is the problem with Poilievre. This is the problem that I described way earlier in the stream. It is not... The opposition's job is not to obfuscate. It's not the opposition's job to stop anything that the other party is doing. It's to add a counterbalance and a counterpoint in perspective and to approach to problem solving, not cease all problem solving. Jesus fucking Christ. Unfucking believable. Feline in the chat says, I dug deeper into that 75% claim about the Indigenous leaders. It was only among specific communities for a project over a decade and a half ago. A project that was canceled ultimately and ended in 2016. My Letty in the chat also said, my opponent is getting all of my friends to agree with him. He's obviously a demon with mind manipulation powers. Yeah.
He wants to have a majority to hike costs, to continue driving up grocery prices and deficits, then he should have the courage to bring that platform to the Canadian people for their mandate.
I'm talking about...
Guys, why doesn't Carney bring out his real plan instead of his pretend plan? Because it's all a conspiracy. What are you talking about? This is fucking aluminum hat crazy nonsense. Like, can you demonstrate any of this? It's just slander. I don't know how this is even remotely acceptable to anybody, and I don't understand how this is legal. Like, this seems illegal to me. I'm shocked that the guy who ran on Canada Sucks didn't win the election. I know, right?
Conservative MPs who left your caucus. I'm not asking about Mark Carney
well,
right now, but
I'll address them if you want me to.
Let me just...
Yeah, then you should have addressed it the first time she asked the question instead of saying, well, I'll address it if you want me to, as she tries to move on because you're clearly not answering the question. He's such an asshole.
Read to you what one of them, Chris d'Entremont, said. He concluded after leaving the caucus, this is from his statement, that there is a better path forward than being under your leadership, and he wants to be part of leading solutions rather than opposing everything. And in an interview, he said being...
Oh my god, that's the thing that I said. Holy shit, I'm shocked. What?
Caucus felt a lot of the time like being in a frat house rather than being in a serious political party.
Yeah, it's almost like he hasn't changed in a single idea since he was 18 to 21.
What do you make of that?
Well, what I make of it is I look at the words that he said about only weeks earlier about the Liberal government. He said that Mark Carney's grocery price inflation was, quote, inhumane, and that Mark Carney had broken his promise to be...
That's not the question. What do you think about what he's saying now? Not, oh, well, instead I'm gonna use something that he said before to say the same thing over and over again and repeat the fucking talking points and repeat the script again. Answer the question! I'm gonna dodge answering that question by answering a completely different question that you didn't ask. Oh, God, he's the worst. I'm so glad he didn't win the election. If he won the election, I would have so much egg on my face for goofing on Americans for voting for Donald Trump. And I'm so glad he did not, because I don't have that egg on my face now. And also, like, Donald Trump is so bad, and I can't imagine what Donald Trump and Perre Poilievre would have done together. Oh, it would have been terrible.
Be judged by the prices at the grocery store.
So you're happy he's gone?
And then he went against the words that he spoke and the voters who elected him for an affordable agenda. And then you have Mr. Ma, who...
What about Mark Carney's plans are against affordable groceries? Can you at least answer that? Can you at least tell me what about Mark Carney's plan is against affordability? Can you please at least explain that?
Who said also that Mark Carney had an irresponsible deficit that was driving up the cost of living and making life more expensive for his constituents. And now they've chosen to help Mr. Carney add those costs on the backs of Canadians. I think at the end of the day, they should respect that their constituents...
This guy's straight up calling this other guy a traitor, and it's low-key kind of funny.
...voted for our conservative plan for a more affordable and safe country, and that's what they should respect.
Do you hear nothing in the statements about leadership and the statements about how you're running your party?
Oh my God, this interviewer is lambasting him. He's fucking she's lighting him on fire and throwing grenades at him, and he's just like, what grenades? Are you absolutely confident that there isn't potentially a fracture in your caucus, that there may be others who feel this way too?
Well, I am confident in my leadership because the agenda that we're leading on is the one of an affordable life, a safe...
Affordability, crime, blah, blah, blah. I got a bunch of votes.
Country, a united nation right across Canada, and that's what those candidates ran on in the election. That's how they were elected, and that is the agenda that we should move forward with.
Right.
You know that a party that's not yours isn't necessarily diametric. Like, it's just a false dichotomy. Just because you want affordability doesn't mean that the Liberals don't want affordability, and he is trying to paint the picture as if that is the case. That is not the case. The criticism that you're getting from this guy who switched is saying that your leadership is not bringing solutions to this affordability issue. He still wants to do the affordability issue and agenda. He just doesn't think your leadership is bringing anybody there and is willing to work with the Liberals to actually get something fucking done instead of being a whiny piss ant. You're welcome. I explained it to you like you were 5. Stop eating my crayons.
Okay, let's move on to another topic I want to ask you about, which is something that world leaders now have to deal with. Many of them are dealing with every day, and that is President Trump. Mm-hmm. He is a unpredictable leader. I think that's fair to say. People are not exactly sure if they're on solid ground when they're dealing with President Trump. If you were Prime Minister, do you think you would be able to have reached a deal with him on tariffs? And how would you feel sitting across the table from him, trying to renegotiate NAFTA? Imagine yourself in that room.
Well, I would feel a great responsibility to defend Canadian workers and...
You're the Prime Minister! You have a great responsibility, period, end of sentence. God, he's fucking ridiculous.
...consumers. I would live out that responsibility by getting a fair deal for the Canadian people.
By doing what? Oh my God. He can't answer a question.
Which removes, the aim of which is to remove the unjustified American tariffs so that we can sell our goods into the U.S. market, in exchange for which what we offer is a good, reliable Canadian partner for minerals, for energy, for international security.
What would you do differently that...
International security, of which I have no clearance for, so I actually have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Prime Minister Carney has not been able to accomplish what he wanted to do at this point.
Well, there's two things I would do differently. One is how I would manage the domestic economy. There's a lot of things we could do right now.
I'm talking specifically about the negotiations with President Trump.
First of all, Mark Carney has made unilateral concessions, getting nothing in return, going directly against his promise. He said he would have a deal by July 21st.
So you would,
still no deal.
So you would stand up to President Trump.
So I'll give you an example. I can continue to be bewildered as to why Mr. Carney would have dropped our legal action against the illegal American tariffs on our softwood lumber. And since
that hasn't been dropped, that's an ongoing thing. Like, they literally talked about this in the interview with Mark Carney, talking about how there is litigation happening in the United States to define whether or not the tariffs on Canada are legal in their own country. Like, what do you mean?
Carney backed down on softwood lumber. President Trump has tripled the tariffs on that, destroying...
Yeah, but that means nothing. Donald Trump is throwing tariffs on penguins.
Our forestry communities, this is after Mr. Carney promised elbows up. So he went from elbows up being his single biggest promise in the election to saying just the other day, who cares?
Folding to get a date, getting something by a date would be not elbows up. Saying, hey, I want to get something done by July 21st, and then Trump refusing to come to any kind of reasonable agreement is staying elbows up. Stop trying to turn black to white. That's not gonna fly. Does he think Carney can control Trump? Well, he seems to think that Mark Carney has mind control powers. So maybe you can't control if you have mind control powers, you can't control somebody who doesn't have a mind.
And backing down to get nothing.
He has apologized for that.
He has apologized, but he should also apologize for the fact that since he became Prime Minister, not only has he not achieved his promise of a deal, American tariffs have doubled on autos, aluminum, and steel.
Yeah, because that's Mark Carney's job. Wow, this is such a reach.
On lumber.
Again, what I'm asking is not to go over Prime Minister Carney's record. I'm asking you what you would do differently. You know, the Ontario Premier calls President Trump a tyrant. Is that language you would use?
I would focus on the business relationship. We got to get a deal at the end of the day. We're right now.
No, we don't. That's a misnomer. There's going to end up being some kind of deal, yes, but we don't have to fucking force it, and we don't have to give concessions. He's saying that Carney gave concessions, and then turning around and saying that Carney didn't get a deal. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. And like, again, he's still not answering the fucking questions. Saying, hey, what would you do differently? Well, we have to get a deal. Doesn't answer the questions.
Next door to the biggest economic force in the history of the world. My focus is on getting a deal and
the biggest economic force in the world that is currently crashing into the dirt right now. He wants to, his answer almost sounds like he wants to tie us tighter to the United States.
Best possible arrangement for the Canadian people, defend our sovereignty,
I think
reopen
that's
markets.
Prime Minister Carney's objective too, to get a deal.
I'm sure it is, but he hasn't achieved it.
It's about approach.
So what would you do differently? Oh my God, the patience of this woman. I would have slapped him by now.
I think, at this point, right? And it's about dealing with someone who is unpredictable, the way President Trump is.
Absolutely.
So do you stand up to him the way Ontario's Premier is and call him a tyrant?
I would like to point out that the Conservative Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, doesn't like Poilievre and thinks he's a jerk and a weenie. And he has gone on record to ostensibly say so.
Well, the approach that I would take is how do we leverage the things that we have in our favor to get what we want? And
that's just a negotiation. That's not an answer. Unreal.
And let me give you some examples. We could be producing and selling more of our oil to the United States of America. We could be opening up and selling more of our minerals at market prices so that we enrich our...
He wants to tie us more economically to the United States. That changes nothing about the tariffs. What the fuck? Who listens to this man and goes, yeah, this is a great idea. This makes total sense. Yeah, at market prices.
Workers and our communities, while allowing the United States to develop its industrial base. We have the potential to produce more...
So he wants to roll over and die for the United States.
...electricity than almost any nation on Earth to power AI data centers, and we're a secure partner for that.
Sorry, AI data centers made me vomit.
So that the United States doesn't have to worry about the security of its data. Those are all things that we have as negotiators.
How are you going to do AI data centers while still dealing with climate change, Pierre?
Negotiating chips on our side that happen to benefit Canada anyway. The other thing I would say to the Americans is the more free trade we have, the richer that Canada becomes, the more we can spend on our military to unburden the U.S. from protecting our Arctic waters. That would make us more self-reliant, sovereign, and secure, but it would also...
But that's shit that Carney's already doing. There's already been changes to the military. There's already been deals being made with Australia and potentially South Korea for submarines and the Gripen. So what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? This isn't answering. All he's doing is listing stuff that Carney has done, pretending he would be the one that was doing it, without actually describing what he would do or what he would do differently. He's still not answering the question.
Give an advantage to our partners south of the border in keeping both of us safe. So those are some of the bargaining chips we have, but what we have to do is offer them in exchange for gains for Canada.
Why in this moment, when we are facing what many believe is its existence...
Does he think that Mark Carney doesn't know that and that's not part of the negotiations with the United States? Like, what the fuck does he think Carney's doing? Jerking off? Like, what the fuck is going on? This man is insane.
Existential threat on a number of fronts. When we need to find other markets for Canadian products, why not take a more unified approach as a political leader in this country rather than so much opposition to what the Prime Minister is trying to do?
Well, I haven't we have taken a unified approach.
That's actually a really good question.
Is trying to do.
Well, I haven't we have taken a unified approach. When I became leader and when the Prime Minister took office, I told him...
He is definitively not. He wasn't even gracious about losing the election. He is not. He's been slandering him the whole time and lying about people. Like, what are you talking about? Nothing that he's saying is unifying in any way. It's incredibly divisive.
We're happy to work with him and support him in any way we can in order to get the best possible deal with the Americans. I've said that to him personally multiple times.
So what? So what are you doing to make that the case? Because all you're doing is nothing. You're just sitting there crying and bitching and moaning and offering nothing.
He's chosen not to take us up on that offer, and instead we've seen an extremely partisan...
How the fuck? How? You just said that he's been catering to and convincing conservatives to come and work with them. How is that not unifying? Fucking...
An approach from the Liberals when it's come to the Canada-U.S. issue. Instead of working with Canadians and uniting them around the goal of protecting our sovereignty and our economy, they've been divisive. I want to unite Canadians.
How? In what way?
Canadians for our economy. And I put forward very practical ideas on how we can do that. Like,
Not even one.
Could, for example, fast track the approval of natural gas liquefaction plants to get tens of billions of dollars of our gas.
He's back to the pipeline.
Over to Asia and Europe to displace dirty coal over there while bringing down the dependence we have on the U.S. I've said let's rapidly approve pipelines and port expansions. Pass a Canadian Sovereignty Act that would make us more independent from the U.S. so that we'd also have more leverage. Get rid of the capital gains tax for anyone who reinvests in Canada. These are positive ideas that I proposed to the Prime Minister, and as I've said, steal my ideas, put them into place, and when you do, I will support that. I will support you in doing it.
Let me ask you about a test of your leadership that's coming up at the end of January. How confident are you?
Very, because look, I'm the leader that will restore the.
I'm very confident because I'm fucking delusional.
Of this country, I share the values and purpose of our party to make this a country where hard work is rewarded, food and homes are affordable, where streets are safe, and and I've been leading.
Homes, food, crime. Take a drink. Yeah, how does eliminating the capital gains tax help with this? It doesn't.
The debate on all of those issues.
Again, those are issues that we heard you campaign very strongly on in the last election. What I'm asking you now is, a year has passed, almost a year. In January, it won't be quite a year since the last election. But do you feel you have to do something differently? Or it's the same message?
Guys, we made it back to the first question from the interview. Have you reflected, and are you going to change anything? I don't know if the interviewer, if she did that on purpose, but that's brilliant.
Is the last campaign.
Well, like I said, I think people, they know that I'm a fighter, but they have to know what I'm fighting for, my why. Why is the most important question.
But people will be watching this, if people who didn't vote for you, who will be watching this and say, hold on, didn't he just lose 2 of his MPs to the Liberals?
Hey, that's me. I didn't vote for him, and I'm watching this, and I'm saying that exact thing.
His popularity rating, if you look at the polls, is much lower than Prime Minister Carney's. Is he the guy you want to have as the leader of the party?
Well, first of all, I think you'll note that yesterday there were polls out that had me ahead of Mr. Carney, personally. And
oh my God. Oh my God. All right.
Our party ahead of the Liberal Party, because people do support our agenda of affordability and safety. They know that our policy of bringing down the cost of living and bringing up Canadian paychecks is the one that they want to vote for. And so, you asked me what my approach is going to be. I am going to continue to focus on affordability because it is the single biggest issue in this country. And just because I campaigned on affordability in the last election doesn't mean we will not campaign on affordability in the next election. Because the
answer is he's learned nothing at all, has no change in perspective, cannot take any kind of feedback, and is a whiny bitch. That's it. That's all it is. Do you guys think that this is going to help him in the next election? 1 in the chat if yes, 2 in the chat if no. And anything that is not a 1 or a 2 will be counted as a no.
End of the day, people deserve to be able to afford groceries and housing, and they deserve a safe street to live on. So we're going to push forward the policies that matter in the daily lives of everyday Canadians.
Yes, you've made that point multiple times. Thank you, sir. I want to ask one final question. If you
she fucking sasses him right at the end.
Lose another MP to the Liberals, and I don't know if you know whether you will or not, because I'm not sure. There's no clarity on that. It may or may not happen. You would then be facing a Liberal majority government, and you would be opposition leader for potentially another 3 years. How would that sit with you?
Well, I think it would sit very badly with the Canadian people who voted against.
She asked how it would sit with you, not with other people. What do you mean?
No, I'm asking you, would you hang on as leader?
I'm not giving up. I don't quit. and the people of our
So
party.
yes, he doesn't have any dignity, and he has no fucking bottom line, and he has no fucking sense of accountability to his own party. He just wants to be in charge, like, you know, unauthoritarian, and is not willing to let go of power. Go figure. I'm shocked.
The welders, the waitresses, the plumbers and police officers, the soldiers and small business people, they're the ones who I'm fighting for, and I'm never going to stop fighting for them.
I will remind you, this man has never worked in any of those industries or any of those positions. He's been in politics and a politician since he graduated school, straight out the gate. So he does not have any idea what the fuck he's talking about. And you think if he cared about those people, he would care about their safety and would, you know, get his security clearance.
Will decide with their democratic vote. We are not a party that makes decisions through backroom deals to form a costly majority government that nobody voted for. So I'm going to keep on fighting for the Canadian people and their chance to have an affordable, safe future as long as my party decides and the members and the grassroots people decide that I'm the one to champion them.
Thanks for taking time.
He's a fucking corporate. He's such a shill. Can we point out really, really quick that this man is like like when he was winning, he was way more energetic and charismatic, and then by near the end of the election, he was like on the down roll, and he has clearly not recovered. Like, he is very monotone. He is very like just repeating a script over and over and over again, and he's refusing to even change the script. So I don't know, it doesn't seem like a plan for success if you were to ask me, even if you do like the guy. But anyway, that's it. We're done. That's everything. That's all, folks. Thanks for joining me. Let me know about your opinions in the comment section down below, and I'll maybe turn this into like a clip-to-clip video after this is over. She should have ended with "thank you for this pointless, repetitive interview. May next year be better." I know, right? Oh, God. Canadian Vance. Canadian Mike Johnson. Diet Trump. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go grocery shopping. Speaking of grocery prices. Thank you so much. I'm gonna get out of here. Greatly appreciate you guys for joining me. Like, share, subscribe, become a member. Consider that. It's a good time. You get tons of fun perks, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna screw you guys. I'm going home. Bye.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.